Isn't he Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby. You know, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You're the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border. And then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on American soil. So he became the anchor baby. You don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right?
Hello, I'm the American Anchor Baby, and this is my show. Thank you for tuning in, folks, on this very fine Thursday here. Appreciate it. I see you all in the chat. About to get going here. A couple things on my mind. And I want to get into it here. Do appreciate it, though. Thursday, 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎 Thursday. Fantastic shows today on the network. Got people going. Got people calling on Joel. Got people thinking on Hake. So I appreciate you tuning into my show as well. And I see already some calls coming in. I will take your calls. Don't go anywhere. 888-775-3773. But we're live here on American Anchor Baby on Rumble and on Twitch. What's up, Troy? What's up, John? Carlota. Amazing Asia says, finally made it. Anchor Baby knows about black news. Are you saying that I may be the blackest one? Or at least nearing? At least in the running for the blackest one here at Bond, possibly. I know a lot about these people. I know too much about these people, honestly. Sometimes I confuse people about my knowledge of said culture. We love the black people. We talked about them a little bit yesterday. You know, I mentioned that guy, 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎. And kind of like, it was silly, but trying to make a point, too, on how these extreme examples like 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎 and these extreme examples of the blacks in general can kind of lend an insight into the home and what's going on in America, what's happening in America. I was talking about a couple things, trying to make sort of a point, I guess, like sort of trying to make a point about mothers in my life and stuff. Maybe fell a little flat, to be fair, to be honest. Don't think I really made a good point. Maybe I didn't really think about it. About manhood and mamas. But I hope some of you saw how 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎's mama and grandmama bear were culprits in the whole situation. Maybe a commentary on shallowness, being shallow. Let's not be shallow this year, huh? Let's endure and actually know that we know and discover life. But I hope some of you saw how 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒏 mama and grandmama bear really were, they played a big part in what's going on, how the spirit of anger, you know this, that caused that mother to be impatient and, be impatient with her rambunctious 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒏. Desperation, how desperation and excuses made it easier for her to accept this call to medicate her son. Like how so many are. Young boys medicated, ADHD. It became easy for her to diagnose him, allow him to be diagnosed by experts and doctors with oppositional defiant disorder. Another fancy little name for what? The kid was angry. It's the female nature that made that so easy. But also the father not being there to stand in the way. That allowed a doctor to just say he has defiant disorder. I mean, the kid was angry. What a disorder. Oppositional defiant disorder. He just won't listen to me. Doc, he just won't listen to me, Doc, and I just don't know what to do. Me, look at myself, the kid won't listen to me. Won't tell him what I'm telling him to do. He'd have a good life if he just listened to me. The way they blame the father, but in like a passing way. You know, if you think about it, 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎 is like the cancer, is like a cancerous tumor creation, Frankenstein of the female household. It's been in place in America for a number of years. I think we could say this, especially in the blacks, right? 70% single motherhood rate. It's insane. We can really see this experiment on American children on display. We could see this experiment and what's happening. And there's been some semblance of, okay, the girls are doing okay in school. They're all Kardashianed up, looking great. They got the attention of the world, but the boys are not doing so hot in some cases, right? It's seemingly okay, but we got into that a little bit yesterday. So he's like a cancerous tumor of this. Like I mentioned earlier, like an extreme example. And they try to make an angry kid conform. You see kind of what I'm saying here? He's like, this female, this like, listen, do what we tell you. There's already there's the rules and you got to follow them. There's an importance to that, right? But that seems to be the main spirit behind things. And some tumors, we're getting some cancerous tumors from this. And they're angry children, angry. They grow older to become sometimes a criminal element. Shootings, we're talking nasty stuff. Anyways, they try to make an angry kid conform. And it's how a lot of men are. It's how a lot of men are. And that sometimes they don't even know it. It never gets corrected. And you stay afraid of taking on life. You stay afraid. They gave 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎, not to like harp on that, but they gave him everything. They were so generous. The gift givers giving him everything. He wanted for nothing. An extreme example, of course. But people who give gifts are the most selfish people. Maybe I didn't quite make that point either. They're trying to make up for what they know is wrong, what didn't work out. Maybe this will fix it. With mothers, children, relationships. Most of the time it's to get something, okay? They are preparing you for life. It's definitely not love. They're not preparing. These gift givers, oh, they give you everything. They're not preparing you for anything, for life. But it works out for the ladies, okay? Because we'll get deeper into this. I'm jumping the gun here, but keep this in mind. It works out, an ego-driven life, an ego-driven society works out for the ladies. Following the rules, but more than just that, the emotional intelligence, what goes in a workplace, an ego-centered society works out better for ladies. But it won't last. It's fake. Okay, we'll get into that, though. They're gift giving. I see the calls, by the way. I want to get into what you want to talk about there. 888-775-3773. But these gift givers, so selfish. I mean, I just came across, since I'm mentioning the gift givers, a little bit of news. But really old news. You've heard this call before. Reparations, they say. You hear it over and over again. Jamal Bowman, isn't this the data guy? They're giving it the data. Where's the data? You don't know the data. Says he wants all 42 million black Americans to get $333,000 and reveals creative ways to pay them. Everyone's so creative. To pay these reparations. Imagine that. I used to hear calls for at least in the millions. At least in the millions. It used to be, I heard that it would at least be we're talking $300,000. How did the reparations number get so low? There's just not enough to go. Sorry, blacks. Sorry, angry blacks, specifically. America's just not this. It's all kind of propped up. We're not really making anything. We're not that, like, rich anymore. So your reparations isn't looking that nice. 300,000? Some might. So that might be a nice come up for some. That might be a nice, real come up for some, but the deficiency lies elsewhere. People who are poor, people who don't have, their deficiency lies elsewhere. They don't, you know what I mean? But these are people that don't care about black people. Joe Bowman doesn't love black people. He doesn't want to prepare them. Some of the most, it almost sounds silly, right? It almost sounds obvious. If you love someone, you prepare them for life. If you don't, you give them some food and tell them to go away. And, you know, I wish I knew it was this fun to, like, work on your life, like, right where you are. I was talking about the Chinese houses. What was I saying yesterday? Something about, like, housing. Oh, yeah. 70% of houses sold to Chinese foreigners in California. And, you know, I'm thinking a little bit, like, at the same time, as weird as that sounds, and I know you want to go to, and I don't blame you, by the way, to dirty money. Some dirty, strange things going on with the government. They're like, okay, well, they're looking around at the landscape and they're saying, well, these Chinese foreigners be pretty lucrative to work with them. But I'm thinking, why isn't it lucrative to work with Americans? Why isn't it lucrative to work with the born and bred people here who they need homes too? Why isn't it lucrative? Why isn't that lucrative? And so I'm sure there's some, maybe I might have to find for myself. But look, there's maybe some strange shenanigans going on. But at the same time, why aren't we the ones with the moolah, the ones calling the shots because they want to work with us? I mean, I'm just rambling at this point. But I was talking about those Chinese houses. It's like, well, to work on, you know, when you realize something, you actually have a pathway to anything you want to do, like anything right where you are. If you just didn't do all this waiting, where you like wait where you have the right job or the right thing. You're doing things out of order. Right where you are, you have a pathway to get to where you want. We're talking about physical things here in the world, but you really do. Along the way, you'll learn some things. Anyways. But I wish I knew it was fun. It's like a video game. You really are stacking up, upgrading. Where was I? The world is yours. Okay, I'm preaching at that point. At this point. I'll let you know. When the world is mine, I'll let you know. I'll let you know how I did it. But I think that's true. It's not, and I know it's not all like this, all men and all homes, that it's this extreme. But you got to wonder what went wrong. Because it's not all extreme. There are homes, there are kids and they grow up and they go to school and they seem to figure out, they get married, some of them. I think just most people don't have any idea of this slow march the world is taking, this feminine energy, this spirit you can't quite explain sometimes maybe. I mean, I couldn't quite put it. It kind of fell flat yesterday. Maybe I got to do some actual living. I mean, I'm sure you wonder what these guys are talking about with forgiving their mothers. What do you mean? You ever forgive? What are you guys talking about? You have to understand that a person doesn't even have to cause trauma physically to cause trauma. Okay, like a parent doesn't even necessarily have to be beating their kids or mean or telling them nasty things in their ears like you're never going to amount to anything. Or, you know what I mean? Whatever things you might think of. But you don't have to actually even go through those things. The spirit has to be just wrong. And it gets just passed down. That maybe doesn't make sense to you. But look at this instead. Okay, fine. Maybe that doesn't make sense to you. But compare it to with what the world is telling us, okay? What the world is telling all people, but okay, men. What the world's telling men? The young men, I mean, holy crap. Young men, the world that You need all these things. You need to figure out all these games, understand all these games and words and terms to have a woman. I mean, that you have to have sex. Like, wow, that's so crazy how pushed it is when you really think about how nasty. It's violence in the movies and sex on TV. I'm sorry, I might be a bit of a normie. Okay, I watched Family Guy growing up a bit. Judge me. Whatever. Maybe I'm being a boomer. You know, but they do push it a lot to the youngins. You have to have sex. I see the way they speak online. It's just a little bit different than I remember. And as I get older, I realize having one is, or getting one or whatever, it's not as complicated as the world is saying it is. And the older I get, I realize not only how simple and, step-by-step and natural relationships are, that most people don't need one or should be in one right now. Not in the way the world pushes it. It should be just like natural, like, that's a girl I like, and oh my gosh, she said, and this is like young people, right? Imagine being old. Imagine being old doing this. Everything has its time and place. Imagine being old doing all this. Oh, that's a girl I liked, and she didn't like me, but I thought this was what love was, and you discovering things. That's normal. But you're saying, I don't know. I'm rambling maybe a bit. They're telling you, young men, equality. You got to be equal. No one leading in the relationship. You look at relationships with my peers and younger, it really is like two women in a relationship. So maybe I'm not expressing it well, but maybe you understand a little bit the foundational point, rebuilding the man, what we're doing here, like maybe a little bit. It's about turning this whole thing upside down. The real reason men are like down, they don't realize masculinity destroys all depression. It destroys all hate. It's pure love. It's the most nurturing, loving, because they say the women are, right? This is what they say about the women, and the implication the men don't have it. It's what they're missing. They tell you they call it patriarchy, right? They say it's the causes of wars, of hate. Hey, now masculinity is anger and toxic. Hiding one of the best kept secrets that it's actually anger is feminine and toxic. It's totally upside down. So it's actually, be a man. You'll destroy all depression. You'll destroy all doubt, self-doubt, worry. And you'll be loving and nurturing and gentle when needed, tough when it's all like real. So I'm kind of preaching at this point. I'll let you know when the world is mine. But maybe a little redo of yesterday. We're having fun here though. Thursday show. I got some calls. They're raring to go. 888-775-3773, and I will get to you. Rearing to go. Raring? I thought you would rare to go. You don't rare to go? You rear to go? Maybe you don't do either. It's rearing. It's raring to go. No, wait, hold on. We're going to ask Uncle Google on this one. Because I deferred to the white man. But I didn't need to do that. Raring, it's R-A-R. See, you know what? I'm traumatized, and I think it's fair to have this self-trauma in that I misuse the English language so often. So, we got my calls raring to go, 888-775-3773. Let me check here, make sure everything's cool here. With the super chats, everything's good, everything's solid, everything's golden. What else did I want to ramble on about? Before taking a call? Yeah, yep. I'll let you know as I discover a little bit of stuff in my own life. How about that? You got to be black to challenge Hake on grammar. Just doing noises that you do and filling up dead air, thinking. I think that's funny. It's really funny when you walk down the stairs. You see someone walk down the stairs and they're tired and they go, oh. We just do funny things. I got 𝒐𝒊. I got 𝒐𝒊 out of Arizona on the air. I got you, 𝒐𝒊, on the air. Appreciate your call.
Hi, hello. I'm a little, my thoughts are a little jumbled, so I'm going to apologize in advance in case I don't make any sense.
Uh-oh.
It's
Only I'm allowed to do that. No, I'm joking. I was going to be all tough and be like, don't worry, ma'am. Don't worry, ma'am. Us men will unjumble it for you. But you know what? We're going to stick to the manly response. Go ahead, 𝒐𝒊.
I'm sorry, Joel's topics were fascinating, and what you just said in your little ramble right now, also so good. And every time you said something, I was like, oh, I'm going to mention that. Oh, I'm going to mention that. So I have a whole bunch of things that I want to mention, but I'm going to stick to just two.
Okay.
And I think the general topic is, I think that we have been deceived so bad by Satan when it comes to every topic, when it comes to marriage and raising children and loving our parents and all of it. But what I can think of right now is my husband and I can obviously only talk for, my personal experience, but my husband and I, we have nothing in common.
Oh, yeah?
We don't have anything in common. I love being home. I love being home and chilling, and I'm more of a, chill person. He is, he's a marathon runner. He loves running. He does jiu-jitsu. He's all over the place.
Go run.
Right?
Yeah, you go run. I'll stay. I'm doing my thing.
It's kind of perfect. Yeah, because somebody has to take care of the kids.
Go run. Go hike. Go run and go hike. Go see nature. Whatever. I'm related to you. Go on.
And the doctors and the psychologists and the learned people are like, no, you have to have things in common to make this marriage last. You guys have to hike together, and you have to read together, and you have to do everything, all of these things together. And I'm like, so then you're going to so I have to force myself to go run. But what if I'm not like, he's passionate about running. I'm not. It's going to be torture. Or otherwise, I love reading. He doesn't. So anyway, what I'm saying is we have just let God, the Holy Spirit, guide us. And we are very happy. We're going to go on 5 years of marriage. And we've been super happy. He lets me do my thing. I don't, not that I let him, but I guess what I mean is we don't force each other to be like, you have to do this with me. You know what I mean?
Makes sense. Sounds like,
and it's worked so far.
Yeah, right. Making someone do something they don't want to do sounds like a recipe for conflict.
It's worked so far. And sometimes I think those thoughts, Jesse says all thoughts are lies. Sometimes I think like, am I doing something bad? Like, am I blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, no, that's superficial. That is the superficial fake love. What is real love? Like somebody was saying, the real love is when a kid is messing up or something, the dad being like, no, you're messing up. Be aware. I think Hake mentioned something like that. That's real love. Instead of mama being like, oh, come here, baby, you messed up, blah, 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 trying to, coddle children. It's the same thing in marriage.
It's not even how you say that too, because there's even maybe there's never a time for that. Oh, my baby, maybe let's not go that far. But
sorry
to cut you off, but it's just a man.
No, you're fine.
They know when to be gentle. They know when to be. I'm just remembering men in my life who've been tough, but it may not seem tough. It's just perfect at the time for the moment. Anyways.
Right, and I don't know how men know that, but you're right. They do know when to be gentle and when to be tough. And for me,
especially with kids,
it's a little bit more scary, and I feel like I don't know when to be gentle, when to be tough. All I know is that when there's a problem I'm freaking out. Well,
it's not just like plain and obvious. Maybe men and women are different.
I doubt myself a lot. I have guilt. I'm like, I understand that. you know, should I have
But I've
been tougher
also
with my
experienced
toddler?
I've also experienced okay, this is like I know exactly what this person's going through, and I'm saying nothing, or I'm saying it this way.
Right.
So I don't know what to tell you. Good thing you got a husband, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I know. And the other thing about, I wanted to mention something about, I can't remember who, but when it comes to marriage and to like relationships, the women that I have known personally in my life, that I know them personally, that the marriage has gone through like an adultery patch, like somebody cheated. It's always the women that cheated on the husbands, and these husbands, they're all Christian, and these husbands like work all day, blah, blah. And the crazy thing is that these women said the same thing when the family was like, what the hell happened? Like, how could you do this? These women were like, it's because my husband wasn't giving me enough attention. They all said the same thing. It wasn't like, it wasn't like he beat me. He cheated on me, so I'm going to cheat on him. Nothing like that. These men, we know them. They work all day. They go to church on Sundays. This is a tiny town. You can't cheat without people finding out. Everybody will find out eventually. And they all said the same thing. They were like, one of the husbands worked at night. And she was like, well, it's because I felt really lonely and blah, blah, blah.
So they should have worked on it. What should they have done?
What I'm saying is, it's a spiritual problem. It's not, your husband will never be able to give you enough attention, compliments, gifts, words of affirmation, blah, 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 favors, nothing. It'll never be enough. You have a hole in your spirit and your soul that only God can fill.
So he shouldn't be giving her more attention. That was not the answer. That was not the response. You don't know?
I don't think so. I'm
messing with you, Sal. You're absolutely correct. Well, think about it. I think most men don't realize that they're feeding this beast that they themselves have.
Exactly.
And you're doing it with like, oh, it's just my cute girl, and I hug her, and look at how warm she feels, and I love you, baby, and those are just little ways. There are way bigger ways. There are ways we even worship them. I can't even speak of them. I can't even put them in words because the sun is still up. And so we're feeding this beast. We're feeding this beast that it'll bite you. I mean, I don't want to predict that. Like, I don't want to predict like that's gonna happen to people. But I mean, when you keep poking a bull and a horse or whatever, and it kicks you, should you be surprised if that happens? I'd say no. Anyways.
And sometimes I think like, my husband hasn't told me that I look pretty today or whatever. And then I'm like, why do I need him to tell me that I'm pretty? Why do I need for him to compliment me? I'm like, isn't that just like ego? Why do you need to think or believe that you're beautiful or that you're anything?
And I think,
thank God.
Yeah, sorry. I think just a man who maybe just has that understanding is enough. That's enough. They just know that okay, this is something we got to overcome. Then it would just happen like naturally. I mean, imagine I don't know. Maybe this happens. Maybe this is normal. Maybe there are relationships where you just never say those things, and you just know everything. You're just in pure love. But I think that all happens in natural stages as well. Like you tell your wife she's beautiful and all that, and then you get a little wrinkly, and you're like, you know what, beauty's fleeting, and we got to overcome this. And maybe in a more decent time, that had a more decent timeline. But I'm just rambling. But you must understand me a little bit.
Yeah, no, you're right. And also it's the attitude, like you say, men are gentle. Like when I tell my husband, like, oh, well, especially because I've had babies, so your hair falls out and it's a mess. But I'm like, I don't feel pretty, blah, blah. And then don't you think I'm pretty, or why don't you love me, or whatever? He doesn't pay that much attention to me. He doesn't make a big deal. He kind of chuckles, and he's learned Spanish because I'm Mexican. So he's like, Mensa, Mensa means that.
You really don't have anything in common then.
No, he's like, Mensa, I married you. No, we don't. We don't have I can't think.
I'm following you, Sal. Interesting stuff. Wish we could go into everything, but just to move things along faster here. What was I going to ask you? Oh yeah. So were you responding to anything here then? I heard what you were saying about. I heard what you were saying about. Yeah, man, it's just complicated. They're telling you all these terms and stuff, and you also made a point about they tell you got to be like, for you just made that point that you got to be like your spouse or whatever. So is there anything, any point or anything you're responding to here? Last thing you want to say before we move the wheels?
No, that's it. I already took a bunch of your time. Thank you, Nick.
No problem. No problem at all.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that might have sounded like I was rushing her off a little bit, but not really. I wanted to know what her point was. So she had time for that. Maybe I'm imagining what she was thinking. Maybe she wasn't thinking that at all. It felt like she thought I was rushing her off. It wasn't quite a rush off, maybe a little bit, but, if there was a response here, she was responding to anything here. Don't make it so complicated. Or else you have a wife that'll want more. You gave her everything. You married her, you gave her kid, and she still wants more. She had the garden, she had fruits everywhere, and she still wanted more. So you're not gonna feed the beast. Right? What are we talking about now? 888-775-3773. Let me rock another call here, I think. Then I guess I'll ramble on about the Trinity a little bit. There's some interesting calls today. Maybe some people will find this ramble interesting. Be a disjointed show a little bit. But we're going to rock it like this. I like it. I got Mark out of Los Angeles, though. Mark, I got you on the air. How you doing?
Thanks for taking my call, Nick. I wanted to comment on the reparations issue that you mentioned briefly in your startup.
Yeah. $333,000. 333,000 big ones for every black in America. You think they'll be happy?
No, they won't be. It's robbery. It's thievery. That's all it is. It's legalized robbery. What I was going to say in regards to reparations is that it's not a new idea. Actually, reparations were introduced back in the 1940s by my favorite senator, Senator Theodore G. Bilbo of Mississippi. He proposed deportation of Negro families to Africa, giving them $20,000 per family to resettle in Africa, but they could never come back to the U.S. Now, that reparations program would pretty much placate everybody. They came from Africa, they'll go back, and they'll go back with money. Also, Marcus Garvey, are you familiar with him?
I am. Thanks to you.
Yes,
I'll let you finish. I got a response for you a little bit. But I also want to hear you out. Go ahead. Marcus Garvey.
The only other thing, Marcus Garvey also proposed reparations in the 1920s. He was like a black Moses who wanted to bring his people back to Africa. And, of course, the same element of 100 years ago framed him and put him in prison and deported him. The same element that's allowing our border to be overrun. The rich, elitist capitalists who want cheap labor. Marcus Garvey would have taken the cheap labor from these corporatists, and they couldn't have that. And just like they want to open the border, they want to displace whites with a colored fraction, whether it be Negroes or Hispanics, from south of the border. And so the point I'm making here is that reparations aren't a new idea. And if the Back to Africa is not part of the program, then it's just robbery. It's just robbery. And that's what I wanted to tell you about.
That's interesting that it's not a new idea. And I already knew that, obviously. But when you put it into words like that, into points in history, it really isn't a new idea. So really, when you think about it, the only thing the reparations train has achieved, the only thing that it has to show is to continue to brainwash or, to keep blacks voting for these people calling for reparations, yet nothing ever happens. So really, all they have to show for it is a legacy of swindling and brainwashing and pulling the rug out from under the blacks themselves.
Right.
Just kind of thinking about that a little bit.
Sure. You might be surprised to know that even Martin Luther King proposed reparations back in the 60s. I just saw a tape of him.
We knew he was a communist.
I don't know if he was a communist, but he got money from the commies. He had a man by the name of Bayard Rustin. Bayard Rustin. He was a pedophile. He was arrested for it. It's nothing that I'm making up. He was back in the 40s. He was from California. He was a lieutenant of King's. He was also a communist, and he organized the March on Washington. It wasn't King that organized it. It was Bayard Rustin.
So Marcus, I'm following.
Pardon me?
I'm following. He had some sordid people in his vicinity.
Well, not only that, he got money from Cuba.
Right.
He got money from Russia. So they weren't just supportive of his treasonous cause. They actually financed him in part. And they won't deny it. If you talk to the civil writers of today who were still around when King was around, they'll admit they won't deny that he took money from the communists. But, I'm just bringing him up because he actually, without using the words reparations, he did support the theory of reparations. He said it in a
So that was their foot in the door, huh? A foot in the door to America was the whole sending them somewhere else, though, part of the deal. Because are you saying, I guess, is it implied or is it stand to reason that the whole push and idea to present reparations to America, just giving them money wasn't just going to fly. It had to come along with the whole, well, okay, here's your money, go back to where you're from, and let's just leave it at that.
Right.
So to your average American, they wouldn't even be going along with it if it didn't have that other part. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know.
Time?
I think white America probably would like the idea, but I don't know. The blacks aren't going to do it. They're never going to leave, even with the 300,000.
Marcus Garvey, so the plan was to bring him somewhere else. He never succeeded in any form.
He would have succeeded. He had a lot of people signed up to leave, black people back in the 20s. But like I say, the industrialists framed him, and I don't know what the charge was. I don't know at this time. It could be researched. But he was framed and sent to prison and then deported.
White people... sorry.
No, that's all.
I wanted to ask you, maybe you have some info on this. I heard there was a time, though, it might have been white people, where, and I think it was due to an agreement, that blacks went to somewhere in the world, like Estonia or Lithuania or something
Liberia.
like that. Liberia. What's this? What was that all about?
Yeah, they did go back voluntarily. I don't know when it was. It could have been right after the slavery ended, because Lincoln had a plan to deport blacks too, according to what I've read. Now, there's been disputes on that, but he was assassinated before he could implement that plan. So there's disputes on whether, I'm not going to say that's 100% true. I don't know. It could be, though. It sounds logical. And I think it was under Lincoln or Johnson, Andrew Johnson, the following president, who actually did deport some blacks back to Liberia. And they're still there today. Former American blacks are, their descendants are still living there.
Wow.
But it's not a novel idea, the reparations thing. It's just that today's people that are advocating it are mostly black radicals who just want free money.
Now, there was some interesting info there. Can you say that again, what you were saying?
No, I was just going to finish by saying that the people that are looting, a lot of times when you talk to these monsters, they'll say these are our reparations. Whether they're joking or not, they're getting something for nothing, something they don't deserve. But again, reparations would be legalized thievery.
Totally.
That's how I
thievery, and it wouldn't even be helpful to those receiving it either. I'd take
the 330.
Whole backwards thing. Say you would take it?
Well, I would. If I was a black, I'd take it.
No,
why not? They're giving it.
No, I understand that, but it won't help them. It's not gonna. It may be a come up for some, but it won't help them. Their deficiencies lie elsewhere. It's not their lack of money. You know what I mean here?
I don't know, man. When they're over there looting and stealing, I believe it's for the lack of money or to sell the stuff and get cash. What other goal can they have for wanting reparations other than it's free money? You think they're going to be,
right,
they're going to love us?
But that's not what it's billed as. It's billed as a way of repairing the reason that they're not doing well today is because of this long-lasting effect of slavery and all that. So the whole point behind it, the ideological framework is this will then make them equal. It'll bring them, or at least their generations they will then. You see what I'm saying here? That they're largely more criminal, poorer, less educated, and all these reasons is because of this slavery business and this mark in history. So it's one thing to realize that, they just want to come up and free money, but that's not what it's billed as. And I'm just trying to make that point that it's not going to help them. It's not going to fix their deficiencies and what they're missing in their lives and their communities. They'll still be poor in their minds. They'll still be all these things. I
agree. But the same arguments that are used for reparations, like what you just said, the hope is it's going to make them better people. They said that in the Civil Rights Bill passed in the 60s. Well, this is going to change everything. The races are going to love each other, and that'll be the end of, the problem. But that was 60 years ago, and it hasn't solved the problem. So if the Civil Rights Bill, which was unconstitutional, because it was all based on race, it passed and nothing changed. In fact, things got worse after the Civil Rights Bill. They started up with affirmative action, which is discrimination.
So you talked about this before. I've mentioned reparations before. You've called it about, there was some interesting new info there I didn't know. But you've called exactly about the same thing about Marcus Garvey and about and the earlier thing you mentioned. And
you mean Theodore Bilbo?
Right. And you've mentioned him, I think, even twice before. And I'm not gonna give you crap for that. It sounds like it's your wheelhouse, and I don't blame you for that. It sounds like you know a lot about it. And in fact, there's some even new information here. But I guess I'm wondering. Like, what's the story beyond this? How do we get past? Like, I just come back to what Jesse talks about in anger and the real thing that's affecting blacks and whites, and how what you're talking about is in the past. But it's all really interesting info I didn't know, so I do appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. But what's the answer? How do we get past it? Like, doesn't seem like like, for example, even just to point this out, maybe you can respond to this. You even said explaining everything that's going on here, Marcus Garvey, through it all, when I asked you, it sounded like you believe that the blacks, they really are just stealing or whatever because they're impoverished. So you sound just like the liberals. You sound just like the blacks who want reparations. You see what I'm saying?
You mean me personally?
Yeah, by saying, in that moment when you said that it's.
But I'll take it.
What do you think? Let me just ask you, I guess, because it sounded like you were saying that blacks they really are just that way because of their environment and their economic standing, and it's really because they're poor and their environment that's why they're the way they are.
Well, my point is, if I was black, I would take the money. Gotcha. Not because it's the right thing to do, because it's the absolute wrong thing to do. But I would take the money because they're giving it to me for nothing. Are you telling me you wouldn't?
No, I totally see what you're saying. No, I agree. Right? Who wouldn't?
Okay. But it's a scam.
Gotcha. It is a scam. I thought you were saying that. But I thought that somewhere in there you did essentially agree, though, that they are missing what's deficient amongst blacks is their lack of wealth. Is that true?
Well, no, I don't think that's the problem.
Okay.
I mean, even the superstars, Oprah Winfrey and some of the athletes, for example, on if I'm allowed to say this, on Epstein Island, they had not a lot, but they had a small number of black celebrities and athletes who visited the island. And look at the trouble they're in, even when they're wealthy. They do the things they do and they get arrested.
Even if they're not in trouble,
isn't really
even
the
if they
answer.
don't get in trouble, they'll be quite judgmental towards white people. They're very, even with all their money, they'll even feel worse. They're out of the hood, but I'm still
Look at the
I'm
kneelers.
making stuff up, but I'm thinking of like LeBron James maybe a little bit.
The people that kneeled in the NFL,
The ones who kneeled, the friggin' kneelers. We got kneelers.
Well, they're rich.
So what's deficient amongst them then? They have the money.
They're
They're adored by the world. They get the accolades. They're playing football. What's deficient amongst them?
In my personal opinion, I think they want revenge.
Right.
Be dogged. I mean, they just want revenge.
Yes.
And when we become a minority,
yes,
they'll get their revenge.
Do you want revenge?
That's really what's... Pardon me?
Do you want revenge?
No, I wouldn't call it revenge. I'd like to see... Well, I would like to see justice to the bad people who are making all this bad stuff happen. I'm talking Biden. I'm talking his vice president, some of the members of the Supreme Court, some of the politicians in Washington who are actively, working to make us a minority. Yeah. I'm talking the squad, most Democrats. There are some Democrats that are waking up, but too few, too little,
okay.
Too late.
Let me throw something at you. Maybe this is crazy. Maybe this is wild. And I want you to explain to me if I'm being ignorant. Why don't you just let them? Why don't you just don't let them make you a minority?
How do you do it? What can I do?
It's kind of a question. It's kind of a question as well. How do you do that? Because I'm wondering. Because I don't want to see the whites becoming a minority. I think it's evil. I think what's going on.
It is evil.
It's totally evil. So
yep,
absolutely. So
no.
Yeah. So why don't you just let them not make you a minority? What would you say to someone saying that? Is it ignorant?
Well, no. Two things I guess you could do to help, temporary anyway. Have a lot of kids. And the second thing, I'm not advocating violence in any way, but I think the American people should form militias and help out our border patrol to repel these invaders. But they won't let us do it, though. They won't let us do it. Remember the Minutemen? Are you familiar with that group?
Go on. I'm not too familiar.
Okay, well, the Minutemen were a group organized, I think, in the 90s. There was a Minuteman group in the 60s, and, of course, in the 1700s. But the Minutemen that I'm referring to were strictly concerned with securing the border. So what did they do? They arrested them all and put them in jail. And anybody who goes down there, beware. Wow. They're gonna arrest you before the invader gets arrested.
I think I do. Oh, go on. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, but that's the world we're living in. If you want to actually take action, go to the border with and arm yourself and work with other patriots to help.
You make an interesting point, man. The border is not secured. The demographics are changing to an incredible level, all for personal gain of politicians. These are individuals who, through their greed and colluding with each other, have kept this going. I mean, I see what you're saying here. It really, you can almost say, well, these people, you can almost name and put a name and picture to who's doing this. But that was only one part of what you said. That was one part. You said, well, the border, immigration, the government. The other part of what you said was you can have more babies. So who's stopping, going back to what I said, why don't you just not let them make you a minority? To answer, so I guess, can you expand on that part of your call to action? Who's stopping them from making babies?
Nobody. But it's just that it's expensive. It seems like the only people interested in having big families are the colored minorities. Mm-hmm. And I'm not just talking about blacks and Hispanics. Arabs are known to have large families. Mm-hmm. Actually, the number of black families has gone down over the decades. But Hispanics are kind of
I was trying to prove that to some black callers. They're like, Nick, that's not happening to blacks. But yeah, they're not replacing themselves either, just like white people.
No, not as much as they used to.
Right.
But but all these other minority groups are breeding. And even if I had 10 kids, what future are they going to have in a colored America? what future is there for them? I hear a lot of guys that I used to work with tell me that, well, the future's looking bad for our kids. We got to get Trump in. We got to stop this.
I don't know.
People are seeing what's going on, but what I hear a lot is, I agree with you, but what can we do?
Totally.
That's
trying to break it down a little bit here with you, it's pretty interesting what you're saying. On the babies, you make some interesting points, Expansive. There's some really strange things. We're really paying for some of the things I even mentioned at the beginning of the show, turning things upside down with the women. We really are paying for it, relinquishing this who gets to decide when babies come about, abortion, giving that up to the women. Making everything more expensive because ego is expensive. You got to placate the ego, so you got to have everything. You got to have the baby things, and all these mothers have this stuff, and so you got to have at least that to have a good child. So there's a lot of mess. I think we're really paying for it. I mean, of course, the big one I'm not mentioning, letting women work. Now it's like we're really paying for this added double wealth. Everything's more expensive. You make some interesting points, although. Even in our conversation, though, it really looks like we can't quite answer who's stopping white people from making babies. Why is it that these other people are making babies but not whites?
The part of the answer would be the economy. I think it's especially in California.
I see Mexicans in the same economy making babies.
Yeah, and they're eating beans and rice.
Exactly. This is such a good
and they got 10 to a family.
Right, okay. They're eating beans and rice. Can you make that point again? What were you saying about beans and rice?
That's what they live on.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to live on beans and rice, you could have 10 kids in L.A. and live in the ghetto.
Why aren't you learning? Why aren't white people learning?
Well, they don't want to live in the ghetto and eat beans and rice.
Okay, you don't have to live in a ghetto because white people aren't ghetto people. So we could already throw that away, but I'm sorry, you just set off a tangent here that I've been thinking. You've set off a tangent here I've been thinking about deeply. I went to Mexico recently. I talked to you about it recently. You called my show.
I remember.
And I've been pondering about beans and rice and its significance. You got to understand, just like Patrick Buchanan said about the Mexicans.
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah, no, Patrick Buchanan rocks. He said about the Indians, the Chinese, and the Mexicans that and he was commenting on this very topic, birth rates of white people and all this. And he was saying, he was just pondering on how the decadence of these Western nations, it could very well be that that's just a simple 1-2 equation. As these nations become more decadent, they have more money, they just want to have less children. So he concluded it could very well be that the hardships that Mexico and China and India are going through today could make them the inheritors or something like that of the world tomorrow. Look at their birth rates. They're fantastic. And the fact that you're talking about rice and beans is what I've been pondering about. The rice and bean eaters will be the inheritors of the world. Just a little food for thought.
Think about it. No, okay, let me just put it this way. If 100 years ago in this country, they could, see into the future of what is happening today, I think the KKK would have run the government for the next 50 years. If they could see what's going on today, the people of the 1920s, white America, if they could see what's, the sewer that we've made this country into, that it's becoming, they would have made precautions to not allow this to happen. I think they kind of knew it was going to happen, and they did the best they could with segregation and everything and a tight border to keep it that way. But now everything's fallen apart since the 60s. I've seen the whole country turn for the worst on every level and every way. And,
you ever check out Church with Jesse Lee Peterson? I want to ask you 2 personal questions, and then we'll move on here. We spend a lot of time here. But don't answer if you don't want to. I just never get to ask you personal questions here. My caller, Mark, Los Angeles. You ever watch Church with Jesse Lee Peterson?
No.
You should check it out, man. Look, we talked about a lot of interesting things and all these facts, but there's no answer to what you're saying, to everything you're mentioning about whites and birth rates. I don't think you, in my opinion, quite have the answer. I think Jesse's on it. Check out Church with Jesse Lee Peterson. Anger.
Well, what's his answer?
Anger, and he could tell you better himself by catching church, because I personally may not totally understand it, but he's on it, man. Anger, The whites, if you notice, they're becoming just like if you notice, the whites are becoming just like the blacks. They're becoming just like the Mexicans. They're even the religious whites. Their religion is feely and emotional, just like think about the religious blacks and even the more radical ones, the Israelites and all that. They're all into the word and into intellectual stuff, just like these blacks, the Jews. They're just like the Jews. They're just like the Pharisees. If you notice, the whites are becoming just like them.
I agree.
So check out Church with Jessie Lee Peterson, man. I think you might find an interesting answer.
What time is he on?
Every Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. We're also here in Los Angeles, California. We have a physical building at Pico La Cienega. It's 11 a.m. Online on Bond Rebuilding the Man. You can find his YouTube church channel, Bond Rebuilding the Man.
So what time and how long? I'm sorry, how long is it?
Starts at 11 and it goes on about, an hour and a bit.
Okay, I will. I'll watch it this
we try to start
Sunday.
on time and end on time, but
Cool. Yeah. What was the other question? You said you had 2 questions?
Oh, I already asked you the other question was, do you have kids? And you don't have to answer personal questions you never want to answer.
I do. 1 kid.
Right on.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about it sometime, Mark. It's a pleasure, as always.
It's not enough. I know. It's.
I see why you're responding that way with just 1, because you're saying it should be more. I see why you're responding with that energy.
Yeah, he don't even talk to me, so I guess I shouldn't say.
This is so. This is fascinating. Not to be glib about your personal life, but it speaks to this thing that we don't know. This thing that you may not totally realize. What is ailing white families? You may be somewhat of an example a little bit. Not to be so glib about your personal life.
Yeah, well, when I was growing up, the schools weren't even close to what they are today. They were going through some bad times, after the 60s and stuff. But, you can't compare the indoctrination, the drugs, and all else that goes with going to school today. I don't know. Any kid going to high school anywhere in L.A. or probably...
I don't know you personally, Mark, or your family. Is it your son, you said?
Yeah.
I don't know him. Hey, Alpha made a boy first. I don't know if
and last.
I don't know if it's. I don't know you guys personally. I don't know anything about you guys. But I'm gonna say this. You might be like, well, who's this? Who's this arsehole? Who's this arsehole? What does he know? And that may be true, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Your son is none of what you just said. Your son is angry. Straight up.
I wish I could find
Straight
out.
up. But you got to maybe check out church and maybe ask Jesse about that.
Yeah, I would. Well,
Yeah.
Does he take calls on that
Big
church?
time. Oh, not during church. Not during church. But he does do counseling.
Oh, no, I didn't think so. I thought maybe after church they sat and took calls. Okay, I'll think about that.
Yes.
And I appreciate you giving me time.
I
Nick.
can't tell you
really
how
do.
many young men I know return to their fathers when they realize that they're angry.
Well, I've been waiting for a long time. Father's Day is like the big hope.
I'm
that
is so interesting, Mark. That just because it speaks to the patience that a lot of men have to endure in their lives, and this is an extreme example of it. These men that we hear about with their families, that they're broken or whatever. It speaks to what men have to endure. So, man, it's super interesting as always. Mark, I feel like we just spent too much time. I hope we could do this again.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Call me again. 888-775-3773. We're going to rock these calls as they're pouring in here. But I'm telling you, rice and beans, those who eat the rice and beans, they're going to be the inheritors of the world. As you can see, I'm animated all of a sudden. There's not a lot I know. And I'm doing the shows, I do my daily shows, and I'm just like, okay, let me try and make a point yesterday about man. And I'm like, what the heck? I don't even know what I'm talking about. Maybe you guys will see what I mean eventually. But on this, it's like when you know something, you know something. And Patrick Buchanan is on it, saying these Mexicans are going to be inheritors of the world. They're going through their hardships just like the early Europeans. But they're keeping their birth rates up. And they're fueled by the cheap nutrients of rice and beans, and y'all judging. And not only that, here's the thing. Here's how I put this together. when I started working out a bit, and I know I'm not this big old buff beefcake. I get to say, like Joel, and I get to say I work out. Maybe I don't get to say that. But I've put this brain, I've put this anchor baby mind to work trying to figure that stuff out. How the body works, nutrients, working out, muscle building. And I realized early on that beans were an amazing key. Not that every bodybuilder uses beans, but I just knew that beans was a key to anyone wanting to be an Adonis on a budget. But I could never make the beans really that good. In fact, I even poisoned myself once. And I couldn't quite make them that well. Guess what? The Mexicans already figured that out, folks. So while y'all are judging, they have delicious rice and beans fueling their population. They figured out how to make it delicious. So I don't know why y'all judging. Time to learn from the Chinese, the Jews, and the Mexicans. But stay Christian, because they're not very Christian. I don't like that. But they're making babies. So, obviously, you get the deep topics. You get the hard-hitting, deep topics, deep, insightful commentary on the Anchor Baby Show here. What else did I want to say about my call, about everything going on so far? About this amazing show. Are you guys super chatting? What are you guys saying? Carver, what the super chat says, can eat beans and rice for a month from this super chat. Nice. Thank you, Carver. Appreciate that. Big time. We're getting big. Getting big. 2024 big on rice and beans. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong. Lamps with 3 coffee says flying high in cumulus clouds. Nice. Thank you, Lamps. Appreciate that. I do appreciate that. That's buymeacoffee.com/anchor baby. Let's move on. We got more calls. We got, oh, no way. Third Rail Omar, New York. You're definitely not a first-time caller. Thanks for calling my show, sir. Appreciate that.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Do you hear me good?
All is well. It's you hear. I think I'm hearing you just fine. It's nice to hear from you again.
Yeah, I'm glad. I watch your show now. I don't watch your intro, so I'm sorry. I just came onto it. So I'm listening to you and the last guy.
Okay.
I don't understand with the rice and bean thing, but I think whites have their own issues. They're not having babies. They're having families.
Right.
They are dealing with the opiate crisis. 100,000 people died between the age of 17 and 45. That's like the cream of the crop of when people start families, right or wrong?
Fair enough. Yes, that is happening.
Yeah. So the whole idea that still whites enjoy 87% of family wealth household wealth is in white hands. I mean,
you're saying 80% of household wealth is in white hands?
White people's hands, yeah, white America's hands.
And so help me understand the point. Are you saying that it doesn't make sense when you look at their birth rates and their families today?
But they're doing good. They're selfish. A lot of them are selfish. They don't want to have babies. Like the last guy, he only had 1 kid. I have 6.
No, but is that the point you're making? Or, okay, I see now. The point you're making is that the older white people are hoarding the wealth.
Yeah, they're doing well. And they don't want to go through the process of raising like they used to.
But these little whippersnappers don't deserve it. They're on TikTok. They're full of crap. They're liberals. No, I'm joking. I'm messing around a little bit. So, but is that the point you're making? That they're the older white people, that they're not having babies, they're hoarding the wealth and all this. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they're selfish.
I think essentially you're right though, because okay, well I don't know about if you're right on the point you're making, but here's what I want to say that I understand what you're saying here is essentially, well, we can all see that they're not making babies. We can see that.
Yeah.
That especially later on. That being said, though, they still kind of lead the way here. They're still the majority. They still got most of the families intact.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense they got the wealth. But that being said, if you look at, for example, I was looking into this, Hispanics who come here, they have a bunch. Immigrants, foreigners, they have a bunch. But give it a generation or two, those kids who are Americanized, they're just like the white people, not having any kids, depression, using antidepressant drugs, and they're really no different. So it's really an American sickness here, a Western sickness. What do you think about that? Because it happens. It's going to happen, and I'm being on purpose extra here. I don't know you, sir, but it's going to happen to your kids too.
Yeah, but my kid already has, one of them already has 4 kids. Well, what I'm saying that our religion doesn't let us do consultation or stuff like that.
I've talked to you before. Muslim, right? You're a Muslim.
Yeah, so we have a lot of kids.
Is that happening to the Muslims too, where they give them a generation or two in America and they have no babies, just like the blacks and the whites?
Yeah.
That happens to the Muslims too?
Well, you have to understand, the more people become wealthy and affluent, they don't want children.
So Islam is not totally a defense either. They are suffering just like your Christian brothers.
Yeah, but right now, if you go to the Arab world, half the populations are fucking excuse my language.
No problem. The sun is still up, sir.
Under 18 years old. They're the most people are producing in the world. You understand?
Right.
Look at Gaza. Half the population.
Why do you think that is? What's the difference between those Muslims and the Muslims here that become Americanized and turn into just like the white people? You say they end up not having babies just like them. What's going wrong? What's happening to those Muslims here? Because it doesn't seem like Islam protected them.
No, well, they're not there yet. Because when I go to my community, everybody has like 6, 7 kids. You understand?
So you're saying it's not happening to the Muslims?
They're not there yet. They're not there. Maybe a couple generations down the line, they're going to be there. But right now, they're having a lot of babies here. If you go to community gatherings, all kids are there, like, you know?
Dang. So you're making a call to action to your white Christian brothers that, well, look, you're being outpaced here. It's a mess. It's a problem. So you guys got to figure it out.
Hake knows my position. I think America should remain a white majority country.
Yes.
Because I don't think it's right for people who founded this country, who created great wealth, all of a sudden to become a minority in their own country. So I understand when they're upset and the grievances they have. I'm like, yeah, absolutely right. Because if whites came to my native country of Yemen and wanted to become the majority, they're going to have problems with the natives there. They don't want to do that. You understand?
No, I mean, I've heard you say this before, and I appreciate that. That makes sense. It just seems like it just seems like a logical. It should be an uncontroversial, logical, almost even loving position. That
I even hate when people gloat. Oh, we're going to become the majority in 40 years. Don't gloat. What the fuck are you gloating? Excuse me. What are you gloating about? what are you gloating about? I mean, are you trying to say, oh, we're going to stick it to the man when we get to become the majority? What are we going to do, make them slaves or what?
It's showing their anger. It's showing their hate to the whites and their anger, which I think is the crux of a lot of things going on.
Our issue is economic issue because we live in a capitalist country that needs to feed the machine, the fire of economic growth. Companies need to show profit every 90 days, so they need immigrants. Yeah. They need to feed that fire to create wealth. You understand what's going on right now?
Well, I see where you're saying they need immigrants, but like you just agreed with me earlier, they're only needing that out of the deficiency in the white people who are not having babies. So what America really needs is for that to come back. The immigrants is a Band-Aid. If you're agree, so far we're on the same page, right? The immigrants is a Band-Aid. Not only that, it's a Band-Aid with a ticking time bomb that eventually will undo America. You will not have America anymore.
It's a socially time bomb.
So you can it sounds like we're on the same page, yeah. And I do see what you're saying. It's like you need the immigrants at this point, but it's a Band-Aid. It's also a pretty dark one.
Not because of that. Because listen, the way our country is made up, the United States, our country is like a corporation. So when you look at I do like Wall Street investing, invest in stocks, and when I see every company, every 90 days they have to show a profit, no matter what. If not, the CEO is going to lose his job. So what happens? You need growth. With growth, what do you need? You need consumption. So you need more people to come into the country.
Right.
You need cheap labor for these companies because they only can make profit because they're not going to pay the white guy $40, $50 an hour. They're going to give it to the guy who just came over. They're going to give him $20. You understand what's going on over here?
1,000,000%, man. No, that's why we're
the corporate America is the reason for the mass immigration. They want them.
Totally. Yeah, and so and there's I would say the deficiency in white America is a little bit deeper. But so I wouldn't say the answer is an economic answer. But you are essentially right, and I think that whole thing is just dead. When you really think about it, what do we make? Our industries are outsourced. We have the whole center of the country, kind of just any wealth siphoned out to the coasts and then to foreign places.
And there's one more thing.
So it is economic. Where I gotta agree there. If we can't imagine going around complaining, saying, "Well, there's not babies being made," but you have like parasites in the government. Like, first, let's get that out of the way. Let's fertilize the soil and let's see what grows. You know what I mean? Anyways, go ahead.
You see, when you have a fire, you throw more wood at it, right? So if not, it's going to shut off, right? It's going to turn off. The fire is going to go off, right? So what they need is they have to feed that fire. Capitalism needs people, human beings. And one more thing.
So what do you think happens if we just stop all that?
Economic stagnation, a lot of loss. They're not going to let you do that. You crazy?
Do you think it's the only way, though? The only way out is through? We got to shrink a little bit. We got to go through the pain a little bit.
Yeah, but
we're maybe not number one in the country, but hey, we start incentivizing Americans to make babies, only born and bred people here.
You got to understand that corporate America makes public policy. For example, let me give you an example. When they took the women out of the house and they started the women's national movement in the 70s, who was to get the women out of the house because they needed to saturate the market with workers. So when they brought the woman to the workplace to compete with her husband, if you look at the money, 10,000 that a man made in 1969 is about 70, 80,000. So they still get them buy one get one free. The wife is working for free right now as a woman. So when corporate America needs workers, they're going to bring them out because we had a problem with workers of the Vietnam War. There's not a lot of people working. And we need to work. What they did is they started all this bullshit. Feminism, you got to come out. Women have to be independent. You have to come out and work just to bring out to the workspace and take advantage of this is what's going on, man.
So we got to put them all in burqas.
Not that, because they're busy. The wife is busy and the husband is busy. They're not going to make no babies. Nobody's going to watch the babies. Who's watching the babies? You understand what's going on?
Decadence. Yeah, a couple of things.
Yeah, it's not the burqa. If they had the burqa, you're good. If you could bring the woman back, if you could bring the wife back to the house and start that nuclear family, you'd be a healthy society.
We'd be laughing. Yeah, we'd be laughing.
Yeah, but right now
we've relinquished that power to the woman.
Every morning at 6:30, the wife is running to the train and the husband is running to the bus, and the kid gets picked up by a bus to school, goes to daycare, wherever. Nobody's watching him. Google is raising him. YouTube is raising him. Yeah, by 7 o'clock, you see the kid. You're all tired. There's no family structure right now. And let me give you one more example before I go on.
All right, sure.
And you have an issue. Most LGBTQ community are white. You understand? I mean, I'm going to say it to your face.
What do you mean? My face? Are you saying my white face? Are you saying it to me because I'm white?
Because I'm going to say the truth. Most of the people who are member of the LGBT...
I don't even see myself as white. But you were saying...
Most gays and all that stuff are white Americans. You know, so and you guys have an issue.
And what's the point there you're making?
What I'm making is 25% of young people identified as... They had a study as part of the LGBT community. So that means they're not making babies. You understand what's going on?
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, it's an issue.
Yeah, they're not making no babies. They're buying them, but they're not like Dave Rubin bought 2 babies.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Not making you have a lot of issues going on in the white community. You have a lot of suicide. 50,000 people kill themselves, are mostly white in a year. 112,000 of opioid overdose, mostly white. So the white community is under a lot of stress.
Yeah, but not the most problems. They don't got the most problems, though.
What is it?
They don't got the most problems, though. It's just their problems. Their problems equal the end of society. So we see it coming undone. It's a mess.
Yeah, what we need is we need to control this illegal immigration, shut down the border, do legal immigration, like, a process, and that takes time, and you bring people who knows how to work and things of that nature. Don't overrun the country with 11 million undocumented or 20 million people running around. You don't know who they are, where they are. And then everyone, they have a baby, like you said, an anchor baby, they become American citizens automatically.
I know, what a mess.
Yeah, so yeah.
We're in a bad spot with any old anchor baby can become a citizen.
Yeah, the sickness is in Washington, D.C. We have no leadership. We don't have no real political parties. They're not doing America's work.
That's why you're with Trump.
Yeah, no, I don't like Trump.
What? You were just.
You know why I don't like.
I'm just joking. I kind of remember now.
No, I don't like Biden either. I'm going to be honest with you. You know why I don't like Trump? Because Trump is not his own man. He's a narcissistic individual.
Oh, he's an autistic. You said?
Not narcissistic. He's a transactional issue. It's
transactions for us. Transactions that are pro-America and pro-everybody.
Yeah, but when he came to Washington, he brought all the Goldman Sachs, all the Jewish people in Wall Street, brought them all to the White House. Everybody in the White House was from
to make
Wall
money,
Street.
If he even did that, which I can't even confirm.
Yeah, but he was saying...
What's wrong with making a little money, huh? We need money to get this operation off the ground. We're making America great again.
But he promised us he's going to clean the swamp. Don't bring the swamp to Washington, D.C. That's the worst swamp you could bring there. You understand what I'm saying here?
We're going to have to leave this one for another day, Third Rail. I feel like we spent so much time.
Rand Paul is good. If you had a Rand Paul, Rand Paul is a good...
Yeah, but Trump is a Rand Paul, but even tougher.
I'm going to be honest with you. He's not a smart person. He's from New York. I'm from New York. I know him. And New Yorkers,
no, you're judging.
No, New Yorkers know each other. I don't know. I could tell a New Yorker. If he's trying to give me the BS, I could tell it right away as soon as he opened his mouth. Like, now you fuck it.
The sun is up. The sun is up. Wait for the sun to go down, at least.
Anyway, we agree. We was going to talk about Gaza, but I want to talk about. We agree that America should remain white, not because racism or anything.
Yeah, but you're willing to go along with. Yes, you're like, we want it to remain white, and then let me turn around and support everybody who wants the opposite of that. They want to undo and get rid of white people.
No, even black people are marginalized. Black people have remained 13% for the last 50 years because of the immigration issue. So they're not even growing. Even black people are hurt politically. You understand what I'm saying here?
I got you.
Yeah, so we agree. See, I'm an immigrant, but I don't like the illegal immigration stuff. And I don't like Biden. I think Biden is an idiot. I don't even know if he's ruling the country. I think Anthony Blinken is.
Last thing before you go, Anthony Blinken, what?
He's the de facto leader. He's a Zionist.
For real.
He's a neocon. You know that.
I know the State
right?
Department has more power than we know, but. I mean, I just never heard that. I've never heard someone say, I believe it's Anthony Blinken who's really in charge. Third Rail, Omar, you want to make a last final comment on you mentioned reparations?
What I'm saying is that, guys, support Hake, support this guy. I like these guys. I like the way they talk, and I watch them all the time.
Thank you, man. And I've seen you on the Hake Report as a guest, Third Rail with Omar, and I've always been very interesting.
If they could support me, too, and come to my channel. And
hey, you're not a guest on my show. You're simply a caller. Wait till you're a guest on my show, then you can plug your. No, I already said it. I already said it. Third Rail with Omar, but have some decency and wait till you're a guest on my show.
I'm sorry, that was a cheap. That was a cheap shot. All right,
it's no problem.
Good night, guys. I enjoyed the show.
Third Rail with Omar. I wanted to say last thing before you go, since you mentioned it, reparations, yay or nay?
It doesn't make any sense. I'm going to tell you why.
All right, quick.
You can have reparation, but no cash. You should give the blacks the opportunity to have equity, like the interest-free loans to buy houses, free education in colleges. But if you give them money, they're just going to spend it and waste it, and they're not going to benefit. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Corporate America is going to benefit when they go buy the fucking TVs and things of that nature.
The sun is in the sky. Look out the door. Look out the window. Do you see a blue sky or do you see a night sky?
Yeah. All right, my brother. Thank you.
When the sky is blue, no cussing on American Anchor Baby. If you're on a plane and the sun is down, you know what? I'm not gonna go around and police your language.
I'm such a bad guy.
The kids should be in bed anyways.
Yeah, I'm a New Yorker.
You New Yorker, that's for sure.
That's all we talk with. I mean, it's weird.
It's no problem, Omar. I appreciate your call. Call me again.
God bless, man. God bless you. God bless everybody. All right,
you too, man. Thank you. Moving the wheels. Nice guy. Appreciate that, man. I got Steve, and I got to say, now, is this Steve actually in Ohio? We're about to find out. We got Steve on the air.
Nah, man, I'm lying. I'm in Arizona, bud.
No, this is Steve out of Ohio. How you doing, sir?
Nah, I'm actually in Ontario, dude. I'm looking at your house right now.
No way. Looking over.
I'm kidding.
Well, welcome, Steve. How you doing?
Hey, good to be on the show, man. Thanks for accepting my call, man.
No, appreciate you.
Hey, so if I could just chime in a little bit with Omar and the homies were saying.
Yeah.
Dude, you nailed it. It's the anger, bro. If we get around the anger, that's it. But, what does the Bible really say? It's like, all right, if somebody's angry or, okay, if a woman's, like, naked, you know that you can't resist it. You just walk away type deal,
Yeah.
So, I mean, anger is the whole thing on that big time.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad I nailed it on something here. It spoke to you in some way. It really is. I wish I could tell you. I wish I could express fully.
No,
it really is. It's anger, man. It's anger.
It's anger. You can't escape it. So if they're angry and it causes you anger, well, you're just two dudes that are angry. It's not helping anything. So being angry at this guy for that and the other, it's like, well, what does that really matter? How is it really hurting you? Yeah. How does it hurt you? You got to look at yourself, really.
It describes the homes. It describes politics. It describes reparations. It describes whites and blacks and Jews. It's the whole story.
Yeah, everything, man. Because we're all guilty of it. I like bashing a race over some kind of hate they threw in my feed, but it's your choice to give in or to be like, hey, that's not even me having that thought.
Right on, man.
But what my original point was how your guys' program and network, it actually helped me to get out of my religious box, if you know what I'm saying.
Help me understand.
So I was going through a lot of issues, like, I'm like, okay, like a lot like you, Nick, how you explain, you're like, okay, I know evil's real, so there's got to be a God, right?
Yes.
And similar to you, man, I found Jesse in the BitChute algorithm.
Nice. Dang, shout out to the BitChute algorithm.
Yeah, BitChute, bro. I was like, who is this dude? And, I'm listening. My girlfriend at the time hated him. I'm like, oh, he must be on target.
Yeah.
But, as the more I started listening, at the time, I would go for 4 hours a week to a random corner, and I would hold a sign that says, invest in Jesus and behold the saving. And I thought I was doing this great thing. I thought I was bringing people to Christ.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of nuts, bro, a little bit.
That's awesome. I mean, go on.
No, so what I actually figured out through listening to you guys is I was just getting ego fulfillment doing that. Maybe it helped people or maybe it angered them, but really I was just trying to feel better about my own situation. And I wanted to thank like you, Hake, Jesse, Joel, all you guys, because what you're doing, I mean, it brought me out of that thought process of like, why am I so empty? But it's like, it's not even me being empty.
Man, that's awesome to hear. It sounds almost like I almost want to say a miracle, especially when I hear all these callers and you hear the Bible Thumper Thursday, for example, and you can, it's like I feel like maybe you'll understand what I'm saying here. You can explain to them all you want, but it's a verse. It's, and it's like you're not even talking to a person, but there is an answer and there is a person that can see the world and themselves. It's a possibility. You can be that person. Kind of being vague. I'm kind of being vague here, but it's kind of a miracle that you can come out of that.
Like
there is an answer.
Yeah, and you're just arguing at their idea. You're not arguing at that person because you really don't know them. They're just covered in ideas that someone else threw on them.
That's so funny. Man, I'll drive around LA and there's this guy who he'll take on I don't know how long. I think he does it all week, but I'll see him at different parts of the city. And so when I see him, I'll be like, okay, so I guess he's doing this corner today. And it's this bald Mexican-looking man in like a nice shirt and dress shoes. He's got headphones in. He's got a big old white cross, and he'll be at an intersection, and he'll just be jumping up and down, dancing, waving around this big white cross. He'll go into the middle of the street when it's the cross sign, that you can walk, and then he'll cross. He'll dance a little in the middle, and then go, and then he'll do it again and he'll do that for a while. I've watched him for a bit, and he's there. He's got the headphones in, and the cross says "Jesus loves" or something like that. I'm sure you could relate a little bit at this point.
Well, that's exactly
that person
where I
thinks
was,
they're
man.
doing something good,
right?
And that's what I was saying to my caller or Mark earlier. That's how that's how Christians have become. They become pagan, culty people that are doing nothing.
Right. Like, you're just a bunch of dudes talking, but you have so much to say with really nothing to say.
Dang. Yeah.
I mean, you're just blowing out hot wind. I mean, like you said, the true answer is just the anger, but you can control your own anger, but you can't control anyone else's. So that's where I have, that's where I get hung up. It's like, what do you do if you can't control their anger, I don't know if I have an answer for that yet.
When you can't control someone else's anger?
Well, I mean, obviously, I would walk away or do my best to avoid the situation so they can't,
And the reason you walk away is why?
To not be corrupted, maybe, to not be influenced by that evil.
The reason you walk away is because you can't save them. You can't help them. You can't control them. And you know very well what anger is like in you. So and you know that nobody could get to you and nobody could change you. Nobody could save you, change your mind, especially when you're angry and you're on one. That's why you walk away, because you understand it yourself. You understand it in yourself. That's why you also can't judge. That's why you also can't get mad and can't hate. And so when you realize that, when you realize all that, that's why you wouldn't even want to control the anger in someone else. You wouldn't be afraid of it, want to control it. You would just see it coming and get away from it, because you know how angry people are. And when someone shows you they're angry and they come back and they all apologize, hey, I'm sorry. That doesn't mean let's say you're angry. Let's say you're angry. You realize you did something like that and you go and apologize to someone. It's not because you're telling that person, now I'm going to change. It's because now they know you're angry and you know what anger is, and you know not to trust that. It's not to judge. It's just anger is what anger is.
Well, I'm glad you drove that home, because I couldn't really put that into words, but that's exactly how it is what it is, man. That was nail on the head right there.
Nice.
But
maybe
I mean,
we got some
I don't
hits.
have much else. I don't have much else,
No
man.
problem,
if you got
Steve.
some more, drive it home, bro.
Thank you, sir. Steve, call me again.
Hey, and tell Hake I will call a show one day, man. I love him too.
Big time. I'm sure he hears.
All right, brother.
Take care, Steve. Call me again. What was he saying? What were you just talking about? No, I'm joking. There was another point. Let me think. Whatever. Who do we got? More calls. Let's rock these calls real quick. Thank you, Lamps. Thank you, supporters over on Rumble. Appreciate that. I feel like there was something else I want to say. Oh, man. Whatever. Jabrail, thank you for the super chat there. Coming in strong with the support. No message, but supportive nonetheless. Thank you, sir. Was it something in chat that I wanted to respond to? What was it? Fleeting messages, thoughts. Let's just move on, huh? We got Steve, we got Thomas, Michigan. You're on the air. Thomas, thank you for your call.
Hey, Nick, how's it going?
No complaints here. All is well.
Nice. I just had Panda Express. I'm ready to dominate tomorrow.
Oh, dang.
I made
That sounds
sure I
good.
had fried rice.
That sounds good. I love fake Chinese food. I'm sure you can fuel an army with it. Maybe even undo a birth rates of a people.
Yes, sir.
With
That's how
enough
you do
Panda
it.
Express.
Panda Express, I think I'm going to have pancheros tomorrow.
Pancetta, you said?
Pancheros?
Oh, what's that? I can't say I've heard of this. Is this a fast food place? Pancheros?
So it's like a fake Mexican.
Pancheros?
Yep.
Where would you put
Panchero.
this on the tier list of fast food?
Hey, it's
We're
pretty
S,
good.
A, B, C.
I would say, hey, them Mexicans can cook.
Look, like you just look. This is just adding to what I'm saying here. Rice and beans. They will be the
dominating force up tomorrow.
The inheritors of the earth with cheap carbohydrates.
Yes, sir.
Why won't you? And meanwhile, you got white America going keto, becoming keto-tards.
Oh God.
Instead of evolving. You know how in the intestines you have villi. What do you call them? You have those little flaps that absorb food. Well, turns out, I'm telling you, I've been doing research. Rice and beans, the rice and beans theory. Mexicans have more villi. They have more villi so they can handle more carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates and all this. So you can stuff them full of rice and beans, and you won't get all these endocrine and nutrient issues that all these people on keto are getting. So I don't know what to tell you, but there'll be I'm rambling. Look, you called in about something, Thomas. Go ahead.
Hey, Jesse asked,
Yeah.
what's wrong with the black?
Yes.
I'm going to ask, what's right with the white?
What's right with the whites? Well, they still stay. Well, let's just look at stats. They still stay in the nuclear home. In America, there is one race who still loves the nuclear home.
Yep.
White people. If we're comparing here. Because even in a home with a mother and a father, the father, if it's not the right order, we're using words here to communicate. If it's not the right order, even that's not a loving home.
Yep.
But that being said, a home with two parents just orders things better, and you just see the effects. You see the fruits of it. So that's one thing that comes to mind. What do you think?
I think the whites still have most of the Western values that built this country. They still kept most of the Western values.
Yeah.
So I believe that is what is holding the white family together.
Yeah. I think you're right, man. And in terms of like this, for example, I know I know I know the white birth rates are low, and there's plenty of criticisms there, and they're weak, and they got problems. Like Omar was saying, my caller earlier, they got a lot of problems. He was pointing them out. That being said, though, I feel like what I wanted to say to Omar was like, but there's still like these basic things that I don't think white people even themselves know that these foreigners just don't have. They don't, innocent till proven guilty, free speech. These are very decent, powerful ideas that it's hard to quantify. It's hard to quantify the belief in these things, but you could see it in the way, for example, one example is the way you order a society. And white people have ordered a society in a way that I think is quite amazing. It's worked out for me. So, anyways, you follow me a little bit here? What do you think?
Oh yeah. There's one group of people in the U.S. that I would honestly say is doing better than the whites, and they are the Asian Americans.
Gotcha. Go on. Yep. Yeah, they are doing. So, I hear they're doing great, right, in terms of education and wealth.
Yep, education and wealth. And when we talk about crime rate, they are a lot lower. If we talk about divorce rates, they are the lowest. And like you said, education, they have the highest education rate. When you talk about pay, they are, on average, paid better than the whites.
Oh.
But of course,
imagine that.
Yep. And I believe we can learn a lot from them. And add on to that, we did not give up our Western values, and we did not give up our...
Because when you say learn a lot, like learn what? I like that they, for example, stick together. They got families. I almost even kind of like their ant societies. They're just really good at being, and I mean this in a positive. It sounds negative, but they're really good at these very scaled societies. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like hugely scaled societies. I mean, it's a kind of a new world, and they're really good at that, it seems. And I think it's partly because in a societal way, they're okay with being close to each other. They're okay with smaller spaces, but they also do they dress them up, their spaces, in a nice way. I don't know. I like that. But but they vote liberal though. They vote liberal, and so yeah. What should we learn from them exactly?
I believe they are more liberal because we did not accept them into our ranks. Because let's be honest, we did not put too much emphasis on Asian Americans. We always emphasize on the blacks. We always emphasize on the Hispanics. But since when have we discussed a lot about Asian Americans?
So you're saying it's a gripe? It's like they have a gripe over it?
I think so, but
that might even be true what you're saying. But if you ask me, just rambling on things that we may not exactly know, it sounds like you might be right. If you ask me, if I was all of white people, and I had this Chinese friend who could be a powerful asset if we were on the same team, but they have a gripe and they're all mad at me because I don't know, include them in something or whatever. I think I'd be better off alone and just dealing with my own problems than adding a angry ally. I don't think you need an angry ally. And if there's any two races that in my opinion, if there's two races in America that actually deserve to go through the hardships and figure it out and still be friends in the end, it's blacks and whites. The Asians, they may look. And this is not look. I essentially agree with what you're saying. Don't get me wrong here. I think that we can learn a lot. I think the Asians also, although I got to say this though, I think they also benefit from a lot of this generosity and niceness from the whites, and they're not the most honest of people, and so in some ways they benefit in that way. So I'm rambling a little bit, but you kind of follow me here, right? They're liberals, and a liberal really is an angry person, and I don't think that's a good ally. So it'd be nice if they, just kind of saw that and were like, you know what, we understand white people, and we're not gonna get mad when you look at us funny. Anyways, what do you think about that? Because it'd be nice.
I would agree, but I think they tend to be more apolitical, only because, well, given that they have better living standards than most of us, they don't really care about politics.
Interesting.
Yep.
I think that's an interesting point.
You're going to argue that only because they're not in hardship right now, they don't really care. Do they really care, like, who is in office? They can just buy their way through it.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, because it's like, it seems like when they started paying it, your average Asian, right? Because you got the Asian with money, and I think they care about politics. But then I think your average Asian, it's like, okay, they get into politics. Oh, they saw the Asians are getting attacked, and what did the politicians and the TV tell them? Well, it's the white people's fault.
Yep.
So you might be right where you're saying they just not really even they seem to be better off, so they don't really care. And then when they do, they fall into the same pitfalls that a lot of people even white people do. Food for thought, Thomas here, Michigan. Anything else you want to say here before we move on?
One last thing.
Go ahead.
When I was growing up, I'm not telling my age. When I was growing up, there's no such thing as white.
You said there's no such thing as white.
No, because my foster dad is German.
Right.
German. My foster mom is Scandinavian. And you cannot tell me they are the same, because they're not. Even though you can argue that, okay, we are Caucasians and that we came from the same we had the same geological origin, this blah, 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 goobity-gop. But we are not the same. And I continue to argue that we can be the same only if we surrender our heritage. In a sense.
Man. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that speaks to me a little bit as an anchor baby.
Yep.
It speaks to me, man. Because I'm blessed knowing that I don't have to, like someone asked me, what do I put in my bio? Do you put Canadian? Do you put American? Do you put? Imagine me having to go through a spiel every time. Well, I'm an anchor baby from Canada who was born in, like, I'm blessed that I don't feel the need to uphold that identity. I don't feel the need to prove that. And I think a lot of guests in this country would do better and have a better life if they drop that, what you're talking about. And that doesn't mean that you just ignore it, but, you're just not all identified with it.
Yep,
so it speaks to me what you're saying, and I like that. There's something else you said I wanted to respond to. Anyways.
Yeah, I was going to say that the moment we start playing with identity politics is the moment we've lost the battle. Because we're just playing the same game with the enemy.
I think you're making sense because of identity here. You're making sense.
We have
and it's got to be, and we got to see through it when people, for example, they'll say whites, they'll come together, they'll call it racist, but nobody says anything about POC. It's so easy to say, well, white, that's a new term, and they didn't used to call them white. But nobody says anything about POC, which is another term used to just put together all these people who are not alike. They're all different nations too. And you know what? I grew up in a time where you just call them white. But it's interesting what you're saying. I like what you're saying because it wasn't always like that. And white people themselves were they were German, they were French. So it's an interesting thing to think about, man. Go ahead. Last thing, and then we'll move on.
Yep. It has to be a spiritual warfare. It cannot be anything else, and it's not anything else. Again, anything physical is just a distraction.
Appreciate your call, Thomas. Call me again.
All right, man. Hey, Nate. Take care.
You too. Appreciate that. Nice. And we got one last call, Steve. We got Steve, New Jersey, on the air, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I don't think I really have much time to kind of hash out my question because it's a bit long. So I think I might leave
you know what? I'm sorry
tomorrow.
about that. I maybe should have even taken it without giving you plenty of time to expand. Maybe we should.
No.
Yeah,
but
my
I
bad.
stayed on the line though because I was just going to make a quick comment about something health-wise about what you were talking about with the gut.
Yeah, go ahead.
White people haven't because I've been going through this myself. White people have an issue where they don't break down and digest complex carbohydrates or even simple ones properly. So what happens is it gets stuck in the gut, and then it'll either ferment, it'll turn into what's called endotoxin, and that's really one of the biggest causes of all these autoimmune and endocrine disorders.
Wow.
So clearance time is a huge thing. So it's not necessarily just the type of food alone. It's like, all right, if you can't get it out of your system and you can't break it down properly, I mean, that's a huge issue.
They don't have enough villi. Sorry, I cut you off. That's why.
No, I mean it's one of the things though, but there's a whole lot of factors with it, and I know Mexicans definitely have a different makeup, obviously, than white people, but they can eat a lot of these foods and still not be as affected by white people. You know what I mean?
Totally. So I guess the answer really isn't become like the Mexican. But it wasn't. I just wanted to point that out, though. The Mexican is enjoying the rice and bean boost here. They have quite a boost. They've made their rice and beans delicious. Their villi can handle it, and their birth rates show it. So maybe you don't have to become like the Mexicans, but maybe rediscover what it was that allowed you to have a high birth rate, even with your lack of villi.
Right, but whatever's perfect for each individual race, you got to find the diet that works with that and work for your body. And I think that's the thing is learning how to incorporate that into society so that it can promote birth rates. But again, we all have different bodies and we all have different structures. we don't all tolerate the same food. So the integration of the different cultures and the different foods, I think, is actually killing white people. And that's kind of what's the deeper point I was going to make, but I'll leave that maybe for tomorrow.
I will take your call there. I'd like to get into it. It will be interesting to see what the white man comes up with in response to the rice and bean.
Hey, this gringo
in the theater of the world. Go on, you said?
This gringo may know a few things.
Nice, man. Hey, Steve, call me tomorrow.
I don't know anything. All right, man, later.
Call me tomorrow. Take care. All right, y'all. That's it. That's the show. That's the show. That's the show. Let me make sure I'm not missing any super chats, missing anything here. We got 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎, already said. Thank you. And that is all, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. We got a show tomorrow. We got a flight. Don't miss it. 4 p.m. We're taking off. That's Nick Stream Fridays. After the Fallen State, after the Hake Report, and after Open Line Friday on the Jesse Lee Peterson Show. As we do, like we love. All right, folks, let me say bye for real for the final time. No fooling. I will see y'all tomorrow for the flight. Don't miss it. Click that notification bell for the 4 p.m. flight around there. Flight time, taking off. Nick Stream Fridays. See y'all tomorrow. Bye.